right, folks, I am back here on WLTH 1370 AM. Free Speech Friday. Issues and answers. Scott and the Rev, but only Scott's here today. No Rev. Rev's on daddy duty, let me know. That's okay, me and you can still get it popping. We here. So, that's not really the only controversy that's happening in the Republican Party right now. This sort of House of Representatives kerfluffle. There's also a new representative-elect from New York named George Santos, who is actually under investigation by Long Island prosecutors after revelations surfaced that the now embattled Republican lied. He out and out lied about his heritage, his education, and his professional pedigree as he campaigned for office. Despite intensifying doubt about his fitness to hold federal office, Santos has shown no signs of stepping aside as he publicly admitted to a long list of lies. Now, the Nassau County District Attorney Ann T. Donnelly, another Republican, said that the fabrications and inconsistencies were nothing short of stunning. Now, this is one of the cases in politics. These are one of the fun cases of politics. It's not fun because it's not fun because it's a frivolous thing, but it is fun because it just shows you the nature of modern politics in America. The nature of modern politics of America is creating a narrative. Creating a narrative, whether it's using your identity, your race, your gender, your sexuality, your religion, and building around that. You know, I'm a fan of wrestling. I always say politics is pro wrestling. That's what it is. Abraham Lincoln is one of the first pro wrestlers. A lot of people don't know that. But yes, Abraham Lincoln was a professional wrestler in his time, nicknamed the Rail Splitter. So it just shows you how far this goes back. But these people in the House of Representatives and Congress, these presidents, these governors, these mayors, these senators, whatever they are playing a character. And as we talked about in the last segment, these conflicts that they have are not real. It's not real, folks. These people don't care about you. They do not. They don't care about you. They are there for their donors, the donor class. And the donor class loved this guy because he had the right narrative. He fed them all the lies and all the stories that they wanted to hear. And they threw money at him because they knew that he would use that narrative and those identities that he had perpetuated, those lies he had perpetuated, to push their agenda when he gets into Congress. And that's probably why he's not going anywhere. He probably won't be going anywhere. He probably will get to serve at least one term in Congress. He might not get reelected because this has been a lot of bad publicity for him in the Republican Party. But you better believe, I think he might just stick around. I really do. I really do. So let's get into the list of things that Mr. Santos lied about, right? Now, he was born to Brazilian immigrant parents in Queens, New York. He has repeatedly said that while he is religiously Catholic, he identifies as a non-observant Jew. But in his campaign biography, Santos wrote that his maternal grandparents were Jews, who fled persecution in Ukraine, settled in Belgium, fled once again during World War II, and finally settled in Brazil. He said that the family changed their original name, which is Zabrowski, in a February interview with Fox News. This story became an important part of his narrative, what we just talked about. He was elected in a district covering the North Shore of Long Island and parts of Queens, which is 20% Jewish. This is just like pro wrestling, folks. This is just like pro wrestling. In parts of the country that had Hispanics, a big Hispanic or maybe a large Mexican contingency, like California, they would pick a guy like Pedro Morales to be the champion because he could identify with the fans and the fans could identify with him. So this guy, a supposed Latin Jew in New York, wrote this completely false narrative about his grandparents being persecuted Jews so he could do better and gain support in the 20% Jewish North Shore part of Long Island. Now, several outlets, including CNN and The Forward, looked into his mother's heritage and found no evidence of Jewish ancestry. Santos's maternal grandparents were born in Brazil and have no Ukrainian or Jewish roots. And then he doubled back and said, "I never claimed to be Jewish." He told the New York Post, "I am Catholic because I learned my maternal family had Jewish backgrounds. I said I was Jew-ish. Not Jewish, but Jew-ish. Kind of a Jew." He also claimed to have roots in Angola. Yeah, he claimed to be black as well, to be biracial. Wow. Now this lie that he told was just out and out disgusting. He said that his mother died on 9/11. He killed his own mother off in his narrative. He said his mother was the first female executive at a major financial institution and worked in the World Trade Center. He wrote that 9/11 claimed his mother's life on Twitter in July 2021. Now, in his biography, he said, it says, George's mother was in her office in the South Tower on September 11, 2001. That's not funny, but the blatant lying is funny. When the horrific events of that day unfolded. She survived the tragic events on September 11, but passed away a few years later when she lost her battle to cancer. Now, this was a complete lie. This was an even bigger lie than the first lie. His mother was a domestic worker, a cook, and a nurse. She spoke Portuguese, but no English, according to reporting by the New York Times. His mother actually died in 2016, 15 years after the attacks of 9/11. Wow. He claimed that after his supposed graduation from college, that he worked at Citigroup as an associate asset manager in the real estate division, according to, again, the New York Times. But a spokesperson for Citigroup told the newspaper that not only did Santos not work there, but that job title doesn't exist. God. Next, he said that he left Citigroup for Goldman Sachs, where he said he disrupted company culture, but ultimately did not find the job fulfilling. Now, Santos himself said, "Have you ever heard of a Goldman Sachs employee take the stage at the largest private equity conference in the world, SALT, run by Anthony Scaramucci, and berate their employer? Well, I did." That's what he said on the podcast last year. "And I did it in the fashion of renewable energy and global warming. This was the panel I was on. They're all talking about solar, wind, and this was back when, what, 7 years ago now? I said, you know what? This is a scam. It's taxpayer money that gets subsidized. Now, a spokesperson for Goldman Sachs told the Times that Santos never worked there. Anthony Scaramucci said that not only was Santos not on the panel at his conference, but he never even attended it. Wow. This is who gets elected in America, folks. This is who gets elected in America. He also said that he ran a charity that saved thousands of dogs. Following his supposed Wall Street career, Santos claimed to have turned his hand to philanthropy. In his online bio, he said that he started Friends of Pets United, a non-profit animal rescue, in 2013. Over 5 years, the group was able to effectively rescue 2,400 dogs and 280 cats, and successfully conducted the trap, neuter, and release process of over 3,000 cats. In 2017, he held a fundraiser for the nonprofit, charging $50 a head for entry to an event complete with drinks, a live band, and a raffle, according to the Times. But the person Santos claimed to be raising money for never received the funds. Neither the IRS nor the New York or New Jersey Attorney General's office could find any records of Friends of Pets United being registered as a charity. Now, this is just out and out fraud. But again, he fits in perfectly in Washington, D.C., where it's all pro wrestling. He said that 4 of his employees died in the Pulse nightclub shooting. Remember that? The gay club that got shot up in Orlando in 2016? Where there were 49 victims. Well, remember that Muslim guy went up and shot up all those people? Well, they looked through all the names of the victims. None of them worked for George Santos. And he's not done with the LGBTQRSTUVWXYZ community. Oh no, he said that he's a proudly gay man. And that was at the heart of his campaign. He said he was the first openly gay non-incumbent GOP candidate elected to Congress, and said he had never experienced discrimination in the Republican Party. Now, despite this, he supported Ron DeSantis' Don't Say Gay bill that was signed into law. It also now appears that Santos may not have been completely open about his sexuality because he was married to a woman. Yes, this man was married to a woman, so if he's gay, he ain't been gay for too long. He only finalized his divorce 12 days before he launched his first congressional campaign in 2020, in which he described himself as a proud gay Republican. Oh my God. He said he managed the real estate empire. In tweets from February of 2021, Mr. Santos claimed that he was the landlord of at least 13 properties and complained about being adversely affected by New York's COVID-19 eviction moratorium. He says, "Will we landlords ever be able to take back possessions of our property? My family and I are nearing a 1-year anniversary of not receiving rent on 13 properties. The state is collecting their tax, yet we get zero help from the government. We worked hard to acquire these assets." Neither Santos nor DeVolder organization appear to own any properties in New York City or Nassau County, according to a review of his financial disclosures and city property records by the Times. In fact, the Times found that Santos himself had been evicted twice. He had been evicted twice from apartments in Queens, New York, In 2015, he was evicted after owing $2,200 in unpaid rent. He claimed that he was mugged on a New York street while on his way to pay his back rent. But the NYPD also found no record of this incident. 2 years later, he was evicted again by a different landlord, this time for owing more than $10,000 in rent, stretching over 5 months. Oh, wow. Again, this is a story about modern America. This is who we are now. We're a society of con artists, run by, controlled by frauds. Controlled by absolute frauds. This guy is not the exception. This man is the rule. He is the rule. The only difference between him is he's dumb enough to tell obvious lies that will get him caught. That's the only difference. That's the only difference. Our politicians are constantly lying to us. So one of my favorite parts about all this is that he went on Fox News, right? He went on Tucker Carlson's show thinking, hey, I'm a Republican. This is Fox News. Of course, I will get some, I guess, preferential treatment or some sort of respite here from Tucker Carlson, who will be sympathetic, some sympathy. But Tucker Carlson wasn't in that day. Oh, no. He had Tulsi Gabbard filling in for him, and she absolutely cut this man to the white meat. Like, she cut this man. She exposed him and beat him pillar to post. I just want you guys to hear this.
Congressman-elect Santos, thank you for joining us today. First question I really want to ask you, now that all this has been revealed, is what does the word integrity mean to you?
Well, Tulsi, thank you for having me. You know, to answer your question, integrity is very important. And like I said to the New York Post, embellishing
what does
my
it mean,
was a
though?
mistake.
What does it mean? Because the meaning of the word actually matters in practice.
Of course, it means to carry yourself in an honorable way. And I made a mistake. And I think humans are flawed, and we all make mistakes, Tulsi. I think we can all look at ourselves in the mirror and admit that once in our life we made a mistake. I'm having to admit this in national television for the whole country to see, and I have the courage to do so because I believe that in order to move past this and move forward and be an effective member of Congress, I have to face my mistakes, and I'm facing them. The reality is that I remain committed to doing everything I set forward in my campaign. I'm not a fraud. I'm not a fake. I didn't materialize from thin air. I worked damn hard to get where I got my entire life. Life wasn't easy. It didn't start off easy. As I've said it many, many times, I come from abject poverty. I made some mistakes, and I own up to them. And now I want to put this past me so I can deliver for the American people.
The thing is, Congressman-elect, integrity means, yes, carrying yourself with honor, but it means telling the truth, being a person of integrity. And if I were one of those in New York's 3rd District right now that the election is over, and I'm finding out all of these lies that you've told, not just one little lie or one little embellishment, these are blatant lies. My question is, do you have no shame? Do you have no shame in the people who are now you're asking to trust you to go and be their voice for them, their families, and their kids in Washington?
Tulsi, I can say the same thing about the Democrats and the party. Look at Joe Biden. Joe Biden's been lying to the American people for 40 years. He's the president of the United States. Democrats resoundingly support him. Do they have no shame? I've made this very clear.
This is not about the Democratic Party, though. This is about your relationship, frankly, with the people who've entrusted you to go and fight for them. And I think one of the questions that really probably hits home to a lot of people is are you Jewish? We've got a letter that your campaign sent out earlier this year, which reads as follows. As a proud American Jew, I've been to Israel numerous times for educational, business, and leisurely trips. You said there in that letter that you are, quote, a proud American Jew. How do you explain that?
My heritage is Jewish. I've always identified as Jewish. I was raised a practicing Catholic. I think I've gone through this. Even I've not being raised a practicing Jew. I've always joked with friends and circles, even in the campaign, I'd say, guys, I'm Jewish. Remember, I was raised Catholic. So, look, I understand everybody wants to nitpick at me. I'm going to reassure this once and for all. I'm not a facade. I'm not a persona. I have an extensive career that I worked really hard to achieve, and I'm going to deliver from my experience because I remain committed in delivering results for the American people. I campaigned on inflation. I campaigned on crime. I campaigned on education. I campaigned on delivering resolve for the American people. That's what the people of the 3rd Congressional District heard me on and on as I campaigned. Now it's going to be incumbent upon me to deliver on those results, and I look forward to servicing and serving my district. I look forward to serving my people in my district to make sure that they see that this is what
looking for. The results that people are looking for are called into question when you tell blatant lies, not embellishments. And this is, I think, one of the biggest concerns, Congressman-elect, is that you don't really seem to be taking this seriously. You've apologized. You said you've made mistakes, but you've outright lied. A lie is not an embellishment on a resume. You said you worked at Goldman Sachs and Citigroup, but they've said, we've got no record of this guy working for us. You've said you've gone to and graduated from these universities, but they've said, well, we've got no record of that. These are blatant lies, and it calls into question how your constituents and the American people can believe anything that you may say when you are standing on the floor of the House of Representatives, supposedly fighting for them. That's the real issue here.
Well, look, I agree with what you're saying, and as I stated, and I continue, we can debate my resume and how I worked with firms such as Goldman and Citigroup.
Is it debatable or is it just false?
No,
is it debatable or is it just
debatable.
false?
No, it's not false at all. It's debatable. I can sit down and explain to you what you can do in private equity, in capital intro, via servicing limited partners and general partners. And we can have this discussion that's going to go way above the American people's head. But that's not what I campaigned on. I campaigned on delivering results for the American people by lowering inflation. I can sit down, and if you want to have that discussion, I'd be glad to, Tulsi, to explain that to you and make sure that we settle the score.
This is not about settling scores, and I think you just kind of highlighted, I think, my concern and the concern that people at home have. You're saying that this discussion will go way above the heads of the American people, basically insulting their intelligence. So not only are you now backtracking on these lies that you've told, but you're saying that you can't explain it in a way that your constituents would actually be able to understand.
I can explain it in a way
and that these lies are debatable.
If you give me the time, I can easily explain it for you, as in when investors are looking for capital and I'm sitting there doing due diligence on the appetite and what they're looking for, right? And we work alongside GPs and LPs to help them place this capital. This is what I was doing, and that's when I worked extensively with these firms and many other firms at my time as I was vice president of Linkbridge Investors. So this isn't a made-up narrative, but I feel like nobody really wants to sit down and talk about it. Everybody just wants to push me and call me a liar. Look, I embellished my resume. I did.
Congressman-elect Santos, we've given you a lot of time. I think the time that is owed is to the people of New York's 3rd. It's hard to imagine how they could possibly trust your explanations when you're not really even willing to admit the depth of your deception to them. Thank you so much for being here and joining us.
Thank you, Tulsi.
Now, this time of year, it is...
Oh, man, she cut that man deep. But like I said, this is sort of par for the course in our culture. We have a lot of hucksters in our culture now. This is sort of the society that we have built for ourselves, perfect for people like George Santos and Elon Musk and all these type of people. These sort of, they're almost like P.T. Barnum in a way. Like I said, I compared to pro wrestling. They're all like Vince McMahon. They're all spinning these narratives. Now, one thing he did say during the interview that was true was that the Democrats have no shame. And Joe Biden has been lying to the public for 40 years. That's actually true. I mean, that's actually true. He's actually true there. It reminded me of this video that I saw of Joe Biden himself being caught in a bunch of lies, being a liar and a plagiarist, a serial plagiarist, why he had to drop out of the presidential race the first time he ran for office. So you see that this is basically just par for the course in this
Democratic presidential candidate Joseph Biden today faces a controversy. 3 weeks ago at a debate at the Iowa State Fair, he used phrases identical to those delivered by British Labour Party leader Neil Kinnock.
Biden seemed to be claiming Kinnock's vision and life as his own.
Why is it that my wife, who's sitting out there in the audience, is the first in her family to ever go to college?
Why is Gladys the first woman in her family, in 1,000 generations, to be able to get to university?
My ancestors who worked in the coal mines in northeast Pennsylvania don't come up after 12 hours and play football.
8 hours underground, and then come up and play football.
It's because they didn't have a platform upon which to stand.
There was no platform upon which they could stand.
The notion that every thought or notion or idea you'd have to go back and find and attribute to someone, I think is, quite frankly, ludicrous.
The problem here is that Senator Biden told his audience he'd just been thinking about these things, and he failed to give any credit at all to his famous British speechwriter.
You know, I was thinking on the way over here. Now, that's a little too much, because, as you point out, what's behind the words? What's there? And a lot of people, the rap on Biden has always been that it's just a surface.
I should have said, to paraphrase Neil Kinnock, it's the only time I didn't, and all the times I've ever used it.
But CBS News found a tape of a second instance.
It reappeared in the New York Times with a new charge, that Biden had appropriated a famous litany from the late Robert Kennedy about what the gross national product cannot measure.
It cannot measure the health of our children,
The health of our children,
the quality of our education,
the quality of their education,
the joy of their play,
or the joy of their play.
Biden gave Kennedy no credit. He has also quoted or paraphrased John Kennedy, Hubert Humphrey, and British Labour Party leader Neil Kinnock, all without credit.
Joseph Biden admitted today that he committed plagiarism when he was in law school. He said it was a mistake, but that it was unintentional.
He quoted 5 pages of someone else's work without proper citation.
I've done some dumb things, and I'll do dumb things again.
He was given an F.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I've been dumb.
To the political community in Washington, it all seems of a piece. Plagiarism at law school, plagiarism on the stump.
The great communicator. Strike that. The great imitator.
You don't steal verbatim, or when you do, as he did 99% of the time, you give credit.
Biden's critics say he sells himself as a man whose words and visions can inspire a new generation in politics. But if the thoughts, phrases, and visions really belong to others, it's a form of false advertising.
Is it a wise idea, though, to take something that personal, anyway, from another politician and try and appropriate it to your own campaign?
I think it was a stupid thing to appropriate material that was really very personal, that was someone else's.
Most people didn't know who he was, you know, Joe Biden, and now they're going to say, oh, yeah, he's the guy who plagiarized.
That's a lot of people.
Politically, that's devastating. These clips are devastating. He looks like a Joe Biden wind-up doll with somebody else's words coming out.
If they're going to do things that are stupid as well as immoral, then they're probably too dumb to have the job of president.
Voters are going to have to decide whether he was dishonest or dumb.
Senator Joseph Biden may have more explaining to do.
The new questions stem from taped remarks of Biden during an April campaign appearance in New Hampshire.
I went to law school on a full academic scholarship, the only one in my class to have a full academic scholarship. Went back to law school and, in fact, ended up in the top half of my class. I was the outstanding student in the political science department at the end of my year. I graduated with 3 degrees from undergraduate school and 165 credits, only needed 123 credits.
Biden now concedes he did not graduate in the top half of his law school class, that he does not have 3 degrees from college, and that he was not named outstanding political science student in college.
Newsweek says Biden actually went to school on a half scholarship, ended up near the bottom of his class, and won only 1 degree, not 3.
Joe Biden ranked 76th in a class of 85 at the University of Syracuse Law School. I mean, this guy comes off this whole thing as a flyweight.
Now Biden says Newsweek is right. His memory had failed him.
And I'd be delighted to sit down and compare my IQ to yours if you'd like, Frank.
Joe Biden was victimized by the truth.
Bye-bye Biden. He may not know it yet, but I think this is going to be very difficult for him to recover.
Is Joe Biden dead meat, yes or no?
I think so.
Bob?
It's in terminal condition.
Terminal. Eleanor?
Yes, unless he comes in third in Iowa.
Morton?
Dying.
I say dead. We'll be right back.
So you see, this is essentially par for the course, folks. This is who we are now. This is who our politicians are. And that was from the 80s, but Joe Biden's still lying every time he opens his mouth. He says his son died in Iraq. His son did not die in Iraq. Obviously told the lie about the $2,000 stimulus checks we were going to get. Then they changed it to $1,400 and said, well, if you add $600 to it, then it was just a blatant lie. It was just a blatant lie. He said that they were going to focus on the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. I mean, this is just who our political representatives are now. I guess on some level, obviously, politicians have always been liars. I mean, I'm sure, getting mad at a politician for lying, it's kind of hard to do because I'm sure they all lie on some level, but we live in a world now where the entire system itself is a lie. And, I have to tell you guys, this is why I'm a third-party voter. This is why I do not support the Democrats or the Republicans. This is exactly why I do not do the two-party duopoly. Because I absolutely refuse to support and to be a part of the out-and-out dissolution of our society's integrity, moral values, whatever you want to call it. These people support the prison complex. Obviously, Joe Biden wrote the bill. He's probably the reason more than any other human being living that black men are 20%, black men are the most incarcerated people on planet Earth, in spite of only being 6% of this country's population. These people support the war complex. They bomb 6 and 7 countries at once. They sell us out to Wall Street. They sell us out to the drug companies. For me, there is absolutely no reason to support the military-industrial complex puppets. You see the lies that were told to get us into Ukraine here. The whole Russiagate fiasco that lasted throughout Donald Trump's presidency. This is our political system. This is who these people are. George Santos, Joe Biden, all liars. And the real shame of the situation is there will not be any punishment. That's why whenever people tell me I need to run for office, I go, why? The political system is not for me. It's not for people like me. This is pro wrestling. The outcomes are predetermined, everybody. This isn't real. It is only because you guys give these people your consent by continuing to vote for them that it even appears real. All right, folks, got to go to a break. But when we come back, happy